To News9 Live. A very warm welcome to you too, Nivedita. We're going to talk about the global climate crisis. We've got visuals from, let's say, the South Korean floods. You've got the Yamuna wreaking havoc in the national capital and the torrential rain across all of North India. Over there, we know what the situation is like in China as well. Those record temperatures. The same goes for United States and Japan and Europe. I mean, take a look at that. Visuals from the Spanish wildfire at La Palma. People being evacuated in thousands and numbers. That's going to be our focus, and we need your expert opinion on that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we've all seen the record-breaking heat waves sweeping across the globe, raising concerns about the escalating threat of global warming from the United States, like I was iterating earlier, to Europe and Japan, and here back at home in the Indian subcontinent. Millions of people are bracing themselves for the dangerously high temperatures. Now, let's dive right into the details. In Italy, the weekend brings predictions of historic highs, prompting the health ministry in the country to issue a red alert for 16 cities, including Rome, Bologna, and Florence. The scorching conditions are gripping regions of France, Germany, Spain, and Poland, further intensifying the heat wave. Now, meanwhile, in eastern Japan, it's also expected to face temperatures of 38 to 39 degrees Celsius, which is quite unusual for Japan. Now, the Met Agency has even warned that these temperatures could break previous records, adding to the relentless heat. Moving on. While heat waves dominate the headlines, devastating monsoon rains have wreaked havoc in northern India. The Yamuna River in the national capital, flowing through the city of New Delhi, has reached a record high, surpassing the flood top that was set in 1978. People been evacuated, life completely thrown out of gear. This unprecedented flooding poses a significant threat to low-lying neighborhoods like we have seen in the megacity, which is home to over 20 million people. Many are saying that this is nothing but the river reclaiming its lost space. Climate change experts emphasize that such extreme weather events, including major flooding and landslides during the monsoon season, are becoming more frequent and severe. This due to the effects of climate change. In the United States, turning our attention to the US, a powerful heat wave is gripping the country, stretching from California to Texas. Arizona, one of the hardest hit states, is facing scorching temperatures, prompting authorities to issue warnings about outdoor activities and the risks of dehydration. Finally, in La Palma, one of Spain's Canary Islands, a devastating wildfire is raging out of control. The fire started in the early hours of Saturday in the northern part of the island, forcing the evacuation of approximately 4,000 plus people. Now, this dire situation adds to Europe's struggles in coping with the ongoing heat wave. As these extreme weather events unfold, it's becoming increasingly evident that urgent actions are needed to address climate change and its far-reaching consequences. Now, to talk more on this, expanding this discussion as to what factors are contributing to all of this, Nivedita, this is where we'll expect you to come in. We've seen what's happening in South Korea. We've seen what's happening in the United States, in Japan. Just showed you those shots from Spain as well. That's the temperature. What's happening with our weather? What's happening with our climate? We know global warming is real. We know climate change is something, change is inevitable. Old will give way to new. But is this climate change really as dangerous as we're talking? The latest WHO report says that be ready for these kind of extreme weather events in the future.
WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, it brings out all the meteorology related reports and data from across the world. So, July 4 was the day when WMO declared the onset of El Nino. We have our expert who would explain to us what El Nino is and what those technical things are. Basically, it's a factor, something happening, temperature difference in the Eastern Central Pacific, in the tropical area of the Pacific Ocean basically, and that has an impact across the world. So, when WMO declared it on July 4, so even when it said it is expected to be of moderate strength, but at the same time it also warned that there would be global surge in extreme weather events. It can be the extreme temperatures, or in some cases disruptive weather patterns, in some cases increased flooding. It depends.
Are you surprised with what you're seeing?
This is not happening for the first time per se, but every few years when these incidents keep happening, the intensity keeps increasing. That is the climate change factor that sets in, because as you rightly said when we started the discussion, change is the only continuous thing. So temperatures changes, flood changes, everything, there has been this cycle of ups and downs, but every passing year it's going to be worse than this. WMO released in May, I think, its report about, it's the global annual to decadal climate update, and that mentioned that we have temporarily exceeded 1.5 degree Celsius compared to the industrial era, which is like a dangerous thing.
Right.
Then it also warned that 2023 to 2028, these 5 years are likely to be the warmest on record for the world. So when we say 5 years warmest for the world, it's an average. Now imagine if the average is going to be warmest, so which means there would be certain places which
Which
would
will
have
get higher temperatures.
extremely higher temperatures, and which is already happening.
And you were talking about how, the change is inevitable, but are we ready for that change? Do we have the right kind of steps, in position? Are we ready for all of that change?
Unfortunately, no. Till recently, everybody assumed that the developed countries, the rich countries, are
all okay
better
over
off,
there.
are better off dealing with such situations. And
Clearly.
it's only the global south, the poorer countries, the developing countries that would face the major brunt. And it's true that we still face the major brunt. But
But it's not like everything is okay in the United States or
nothing
Europe.
at all.
Let's
Why?
go across to, we also have GP Sharma with us, Air Vice Marshal GP Sharma. Very warm welcome to you, sir, President SkyMet. Sir, can you help us understand this? Is there a pattern that's available for us to see what's happening? I'm sure you're looking at the, headlines from United States to Japan. What's happening with our weather, sir?
Yes, looking at the headlines, you see the northern hemisphere where the sun is now, okay, the tropic of the Capricorn. Obviously, northern hemisphere is the warmest at the moment. Southern hemisphere being having wintry patterns. So obviously, you don't expect such extremes there. But then it's a right from US, like you said, to Europe, to Asia. You name a continent or you name a country, it's reeling under extreme weather conditions. Be it a heat wave, be it some floods are there, be it extreme means obviously which are unprecedented also at many parts. Particularly, I will talk about the Europe also, as well as even US also. Okay. Now, we did mention about the climate change. Everyone knows about it. Okay. We keep having COP 24, 25,
Right.
26, everything. Okay. We discuss all these things, but on ground, I'm afraid nothing much has been done. And that is how year on year, month on month, we see the earlier records being surpassed. This particular June, which we have gone through, probably may turn out to be the hottest June also. Okay. Similarly, when we take the average also for the year, it could be one of the, as it is, the last 8 years have been one of the hottest out of 10. Okay. That means there is no mercy by the global warming as such. And why should it be? Unless we do something effectively about it, it will not happen on its own. Okay, there is a human-induced climatic change conditions, and there is the other one, greenhouse. But greenhouse gases also, we are the culprits. We have done it, and a combination of these two under its influence and some other factors, they are leading to these types of extreme conditions. They are definitely leaving anxious moments. Okay, record temperatures. Like you said, Arizona, that Phoenix city,
Right.
43 degrees centigrade. Okay, for 16 consecutive days, the temperature has been above 40 degree. Means average is above 40, 42, 43. Some of the temperatures are unbelievable that some of the parts possibly they may exceed 50 degree, even reach 54. I'm shocked to even have the report that Italy, though many cities they have issued the red alert also, even the islands, Sicily and Sardinia, they are having temperature to the range of 43 degree.
Right.
Any oceanic bodies, any island surrounded by the oceanic bodies, obviously they do not normally experience, but it is there. It's a reality. Yeah. Yes, Kabir.
Right, and Air Vice Marshal Sharma, also the fact that Nivedita was talking about El Nino and several other technical aspects in terms of factors that have led or contributed to where we are today. Can you pinpoint some of those factors so that people know क्यों हो रहा है, किस लिए हो रहा है?
El Nino is the factor which is most climatic chaos, if you can talk about, which brings, that is El Nino. Okay, and particularly this El Nino, which we are having after a La Nina of 3 years, which we keep very fondly. We talk about triple dip La Nina that was there, and after that we have now El Nino, and it's a strong El Nino which is coming up. Obviously, it's a warming of the Pacific water in the equatorial Pacific and tropical Pacific. That's a warming, and it is a heating up at a phenomenal speed and rapid increase in the temperatures. They are worrisome. I think the worst is yet to come. The temperatures have already exceeded.
What essentially do you mean by that, sir? The worst
average.
is yet to come. I mean, let's not scare the viewers. Let's also tell them क्या होने वाला है.
You see, basically, El Nino, as I said, it's the warming of the Pacific. Okay, normally, as it's routine, it starts sometime in March, April. It peaks around September, October, and then starts decaying the subsequent year or the fall of the year, January onward. It starts decaying. In the temperatures, they reach a peak and then they start dropping. Okay, so this is what we call it. Warming of the Pacific is termed as the El Nino conditions. Okay. What I'm saying is worst is going to come because the indications, model indications are it is going to increase further. At the moment, the South American coast, which is Nino 1.2, 1 plus 2, we call it as it's a 3.3 degree above the normal. It's a record in the last about 10 years. We haven't seen such high temperature above the average over that region. So it's a warning. It's a definitely a very, very clear warning that the temperatures are going to exceed, and that is what is El Nino. The more the temperature, the more the strength of the El Nino, and that is why I said possibly normally as far as the Indian region is concerned, we are more concerned about our monsoon, and we always term it related also with that. And we said, like SkyMet in our forecast, we said the second half is going to be more harsher than the first. Means El Nino conditions will strengthen, and that is how I said worst will come. Means August, September, as far as we are concerned, as far as the monsoon is concerned, possibly I fear that the rainfall will further get subdued. It will get corrupt. Monsoon pace as such, or its various systems which are there, all put together. That's how it's called a climatic chaos, which if it can cause around the globe, it's El Nino. Yes.
Well, Air Vice Marshal Sharma, I was just reading about, the climate activists that have glued their hand on the runway of Dusseldorf, and some might need amputation as well, because that's what it has come to. You'll go for these COP24s, you'll go for these climate, conclaves, but you'll take a large Boeing jet over there, again adding to the carbon footprint on the planet. So it seems like gluing your hands on the tarmac is one of those viable options that the climate activists today have. Of course, I'm not going to do that because I love my arms, and clearly on the weighing scale, my love for myself outweighs my love for Mother Earth, but that's not the case for everybody else. Nivedita, firstly, would you like to echo a little bit on what Air Vice Marshal here is talking about? And secondly, in the case of Yamuna, let's just talk about Yamuna. We saw it, breach those 208 point so and so, that particular meter. So many people's lives were thrown out of gear. People literally came onto the roads wherever there was road visible, for starters. Usme kaha gaya ki there are some 25 bridges that are obstructing the Yamuna. There is massive encroachment. The sedimentation has led for the rock bed, the level of the sea to come out, the riverbed to come up. All of these factors, some of them are potentially, all of it man-made. Now, in terms of, how much humans can do, what is human induced, and when we're looking at precautions, preparing ourselves for, like Air Vice Marshal Sharma is saying, the worst is yet to come. How do we prepare ourselves
Yeah.
And how much of it is human induced?
Correct. So you asked me two things. One, I would like to take something from where he ended about the El Nino impact on the Indian monsoon. As he has said, IMD, India Meteorological Department, has also said that the impact of El Nino would be felt in the second half of the monsoon. But at the same time, IMD is trying not to scare the people, especially the farmers, with its statistics, because the data from the IMD shows that between 1951 to 2022, there were 15 El Nino years, and of those 15 El Nino years, 9 were when there was below normal rainfall and 6 were when there was above normal rainfall. So, how it pans out this monsoon is yet to be known. So, there is going to be some impact, but we don't know
It's all
as
speculative
yet.
right now.
We don't know as yet what it will be for the India's monsoon this year. IMD has already predicted twice that this year's monsoon is going to be normal. So there is a lot of temporal and spatial variations, yes, but the average, pan-India average is going to be normal. That's what they have claimed. Coming back to Yamuna, what we see. So what applies to monsoon and Yamuna and floodplains is also something what Mr. Sharma said a while ago vis-a-vis the anthropogenic reasons contributing to the climate change debate. Why I say, if you let the river flow as it is in the natural form, the flood will come and it will move ahead. So there would be a very small time frame where the areas would be flooded and the water naturally moves to the next level.
Right.
What now we have done in Delhi
Stopped its way.
is from the Wazirabad barrage to the Okhla barrage of 22 kilometers, we have 26 already built bridges and 3 are under construction. Now what does that mean is the Yamuna width varies from place to place,
Certainly.
and at places it is 5 kilometers or 4 kilometers. Of that, the actual channel in non-monsoon months is a very small area and rest is a floodplain. Now what the bridges have done is, in Delhi, majority of the, almost 95-98% of the bridges, the span, actual bridge span is only half a kilometer.
Okay.
And the rest of the width is a approach road. Now with that approach road, and to fortify that approach road, there is an embankment, and all such things have sort of fragmented the Yamuna floodplains.
It has stopped its natural flow per se.
Exactly.
And that's
So-
again what is human induced here.
Exactly. So this is this is, I don't say we don't need bridges, we need. There definitely is a need for bridges from going from one place to another, but the kind of bridges that we have built, they are obstructing the natural flow of the river. That is one. Then we have multiple encroachments on the floodplains. The Delhi Development Authority tells us that there is 9,700 hectares of Yamuna floodplain.
That has been encroached upon.
No, that's a total.
Okay, that's a
And
total.
of which the active floodplain left is only some 6,400 hectares. 64, 67 something.
That's almost like
rest
250
of-
plus encroached.
Rest of the area is encroached either officially, unauthorized way or what. Like what, I'll give you an example of official encroachment. For instance, just as the generation now remembers Commonwealth Games and the Commonwealth Games village, which also is built on a Yamuna floodplain.
Right.
In the late 70s and early 80s, it was the Players Building, which was constructed for the 1982 Asian Games. And guess what that Players Building is called now? It's the Delhi Secretariat, which was built on the floodplain. So we keep doing faulty things, we keep encroaching the river.
And rather than rectifying it, we fortify it and
we
make it look
keep
like a
increasing.
magnificent palace.
There are hundreds of colonies which have come up on the floodplains, and in the vote bank politics prevents it from throwing them away from the floodplain. Instead, they are regularized.
Talk about humans' capitalist reflex, making situations and things
So
worse
what
for themselves.
happens is, all these things, flood is a natural thing, and in fact for the river flood is necessary. But all these things create human induced problems for the people and loss of damage to the property.
And in some cases,
then,
life also.
Yes, and then comes the climate change factor, because climate change is going to add to these problems. It's not going to create problems new, it's going to add to these problems.
Right, and we've got Air Vice Marshal Sharma to help us understand if there is a climate action that we need. Sir, we've come to a point where we can't even ask each other those kind of questions anymore, because it sounds toothless. It sounds like mere lip service. Okay, you know what, Mr. Sharma, how about you tell us what kind of climate actions do we need? What can the humans do? I mean, all of this just sounds like very trivial, because we ask this question the same time. Come Diwali, and trust you me, we'll again ask the same question. Why is it so polluted? Why can we feel the pollution in the air? But what is being done on the ground? Given a chance, sir, given a chance to you, I mean, of course, a hypothetical position. Let's put you in a Nayak type movie scenario. Given a chance where you could twist and turn the tide and make things right, what is it? What are the first 3-4 most top things that you do?
Okay, Kabir, before I comment on this, a few seconds I take to just go back to the El Nino, which we mentioned, which Ms.
Right,
Nivedita
certainly.
brought out. This century, 2000 onward, there have been 5 El Nino. All 5 El Nino have ended with a drought, or one of that we just escaped. That was 6th one, 2018, where it was well below, just about 90%. Okay, not a single El Nino has spared us in the last 25 years. Let us not forget about that. Stats are all right. Yes, there were 15 El Nino. Only one El Nino gave us above normal rainfall in 1958. Otherwise, all the El Ninos, they have been either whosoever, whenever it was a little kind, it was a little normal rain. Even 1997, which we talk about, 102%, which again is a normal rainfall. And look at this, whenever we have El Nino, tell me how many times the forecast was given as a normal rainfall? If we are so sure that El Nino will not strike, how many times did we give a normal rainfall monsoon? No. Okay, please, we have it. Okay, this is the first time possibly that giving indications that it's a very brave thing which possibly the National Weather Agency has done, that going against all odds. But then you see, Skywet, we have given 94%. IMD has given 96%. There is a very thin line between the two. There is not a big margin. Okay, but yes, category wise, yes, we have given below normal rainfall and we stand to it. Okay, there are still about 2/3 of the season is still there. And then I still feel, you see, El Nino has not spared us in the past. Why should it spare us this time? There are grounds when it spares us. It may build up also. I am also a well-wisher that, okay, if we go scot-free, it will be a very good thing. Why not? I would like to do that. But then going with the past record in the recent
We
years
know,
or
sir,
so,
Kudrat se
it
panga nahi
has
liya
not
ja
done
sakta.
so.
That is something
That's
that we
it.
know.
So,
You can't
bilkul.
really take a fight to Mother Nature. Kudrat se panga nahi lena hai. In terms of climate action, sir, we're running out of time here. We need your expert opinion on the climate action that is needed.
Yeah, yes. You see, Kabir, we are, most of us, we are aware as to what is to be done, but unfortunately, we are not doing much about that. We only go from year to year, season to season. Every time, like you mentioned, Diwali and all, that period will come when the AQI will be down by, when we say severe category, hazardous category, and then we pass those days and without taking any significant stuff, whatever minuscule which we do at this level, that doesn't suffice. It has to be a national and a national program. It has to be a collective activity which need to be taken up. Okay, atmosphere has got no barrier. It travels from one to the next without any stoppages in between. Okay, so therefore, because whether we have no control over that, we can only control the human-induced changes or the activities which are there. Okay, like we mentioned about Yamuna, why it has happened? It is reclaiming only its land. We have ingressed into those areas where it was flowing earlier, and you have the people staying there now. Whose fault is this? It is our fault. It is only reclaiming those areas where it earlier track was there. And similar thing, this is the single most example, but there are n number of things. Okay, in the name of urban planning and the development, we need that. We need that development, but we should be very, very choosy, very selective about the
It has to be
measures
very
which
balanced.
are needed in the wake of those developments. That is not, that is correct. That should be balanced. Who was looking into that? There are a number of reports I'm telling you which only gather dust while those files are put up in the cupboard. They only gather dust. We are from the scientific community. We are aware about that. Nobody is answerable, accountable. We forget about these things very easily. Whatever catastrophic event took place now in Himachal Pradesh and earlier even in Uttarakhand also, are we really conscious about that? Are we really doing something on those lines to prevent that in future? I'm afraid not
Well,
much.
certainly,
And
I mean,
till such
and, you know,
time we into it.
the
Nothing.
words that you're saying will certainly go a longer way. You know, Nivedita, what a great point that he's made, that it's not a real issue. I mean, we're talking about activists gluing their hands to the runway on the tarmac and might need amputation on the entire hand. But when will it come a day when, you know, the politicians come out and make climate change a real poll issue? When will it become a poll issue? At least in places like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, where you see these kind of activities take year on year, year after year, maybe there at least we're looking at those visuals. I mean, this is your Manali route. This is the Byas that's flowing. It has now changed its course. It's like, hello boss, you built a road on me, now get aside. I'm going to reclaim my territory. And this is, I was speaking to my younger nephew. She said that, you know, this is just Mother Earth fixing herself.
Yes.
You know, like you take care of your wounds, this is Mother Earth taking care of her wounds, and rightly so. Who's going to stop? Who's going to stop Mother Earth? Which is why I say there is no panga taking with you know, nature. If I would ask you the same question, Nivedita, you know, you visit these conclaves, you know the right people to talk to, you know the politics and, you know, the dirty underbelly of pretty much anything under the sun. Just like that, even the environmental sector has that dirty underbelly. What do you think are the first few steps that can be taken? Because लोगों में awareness करानी है, ये तो है ही. Today climate change might not be a real issue, but one day it will be. Why not get them practiced? You know, why not get their practice started from right now? But first and foremost, 2-3 things that you do right at the outset.
So when you talk about the COPs happening, COP is a annual event which is for, you know, bringing out certain declarations and all that. It's not that the negotiations happen only at the COP. There are negotiations going on round the year, and there are stages at which certain things are happening. So COP becomes the showcase events, the most sort of sexy event that everybody is paying attention to, and that's why anything and everything happens in the run up to the COP. So that's one part. Now second, as you rightly said, it's not that people don't know. People as in the government doesn't know what to do. It can be the US government, it can be the European Parliament, European Union, it can be Russia, it can be India.
Japan, South Korea, China,
anybody
you name
and
it, yeah.
everybody. Each one of the country, they know. Everyone except handful, they have all submitted their what is called nationally determined contributions, that okay, these are the steps that we would be taking to keep emissions in check. That would help ultimately collective action to keep the global temperature in check, not let it go beyond 1.5 ideally, but at least we are trying to go till 2. Now the thing is, even despite that, why is there this gap? Now there can be multiple reasons attributed to you, but 2 simple things if I want to draw attention to is, one, governments, especially in the global south, are always tied up between the developmental goals, the aspirational goals. For instance, we have to provide electricity to everybody. So Government of India says, okay, we have to provide electricity to so many people, coal is the best way forward. In the long term, coal is not the best way forward. So on the second hand, it is also trying to increase renewable energy, which is doing its best. But then there are so many practical problems in deployment of renewable energy. Then what do you do? So this is a very fine line that the government keeps ahead. Similarly with the global south, most of the countries are yet to develop. they have their aspirational targets, they have their goals to achieve this, and theirs is a very valid argument that look, the rich countries have almost used entire carbon capture to progress. Now it's their turn to cut down
Put a heftier
cut down drastically.
sanction on them rather than put a sanction on us.
And that cutting down drastically needs to happen, which the per capita energy consumption is not decreasing anywhere. And second, they need to help the global south with finance, with technology transfer to mitigate problems here, because these problems are being caused by the emissions that they have already done in so many years.
Right.
That is not happening, and that is the crux that COPs keep discussing. So it's
who has to
two-level
atone?
things.
Who has to atone? Who's at fault? Who uses more energy than the other? I remember even as the West was putting sanctions on Russia, the Indian foreign minister had said that, you know, what we use in one day, you use in probably a couple of hours. And that's again...
One quarter.
That
What India consumed or imported in one quarter, they use it in one afternoon. That's what his
right, in
statement
one
was.
afternoon,
Yeah.
precisely. So that's the...
So that's the high level of energy consumption that the rich
and
countries
also the
have.
brinkmanship. I mean, how will we move past and talk about, you know, Air Vice Marshal Sharma, please come in on this. You know, how do we move beyond this brinkmanship? तुमने ज़्यादा खर्च किया, हमने कम energy खर्च करी. The developed countries used up all that exploitation way before we got a chance to finally come there. Toothless, determinations being made at the COPs. How do you look at all of this? And also Arizona, Texas, Florida, Rome, you name it, Spain, La Palma. What do you think is the most burning situation right now?
See, all this, in detail, you have mentioned about these developed countries. Okay. The poor countries, they continue to remain poor. Be it last couple of decades, you say, they remain poor. They remain in that category. In that name of climate change, what the prosperous countries they are doing is buying those credits, okay, making use of that credit for their development and providing some peanuts, some help to those countries which actually need that also, okay. Otherwise, as far as the energy is concerned, India is doing very well. I think gone are the days, possibly we will fulfill our promise, whatever has been done at these COPs, or so that we will have the share of renewable energy has increased. Yes, much more needs to be done. At the moment, major share, it does go to thermal power only, which is coal-based, all right, that adds to the pollution, but then we have just started. We are the newcomers, we are the beginners in that field, and if we have done so much for this, the day is not very far, at least we can say now itself, it will be that we will at least our promise, whatever has been done, that will be fulfilled. Okay, we are far better. But then, obviously, India's size of India and the population of our country. Look at the resources which we have and the demands and the other targets which we have to meet. It's a Herculean task. But then, despite that, we have been doing very well. Okay.
All right.
That is how India has a name everywhere in the continent, anywhere, whether the Prime Minister goes to US or he goes to UK or wherever it goes.
Well, I understand everybody wants a piece of India, sir, but are we ready? Is India ready? Is India actually ready? Are we ready in terms of precautions? That's the question. I know everybody wants a piece of Prime Minister Modi and India.
Yeah. There is as I said, there is much more needs to be done on that. We are seeing these, it's a warning now at the moment, the month of June and the beginning of July, the extreme weather events or high impact weather events which have been there over various parts of the globe, various continents. You talk about the wildfires are there in Spain and Canada or so. They one give rise to the other. If the heat wave conditions are there, extreme heat wave, obviously there is a dryness. There will be wildfire. The wildfire is there, there will be increase in the temperature. So they are all the cascading effect is there, one after the other. And then look at our country. Obviously, we have phenomenal amount of rainfall, extreme, devastating, damaging, ravaging rainfall activity in the mountains and the plain, whereas the down south, it is nearly a drought-like condition in many pockets. You fail to even have a व्यू ऑन दिस कि भाई इट कैन हैपन, कि ऐसा हो सकता है, लगता नहीं है पर है, ऐसा ही है। बहुत सारी पॉकेट्स ऐसी हैं हमारे ईस्ट इंडिया में, झारखंड, बिहार, पश्चिमी बंगाल और नीचे जो साउथ जितना है उसमें रेनफॉल बहुत कम है, और वो इतना ज्यादा है नॉर्थ में कि जिसने ज्यादा होने की वजह से ही इतना नुकसान किया। इट इज अ डैमेजिंग रेनफॉल। सो बोथ काउंट्स वी आर बीइंग फिक्स्ड, one on high account of high intensity rain, and on the other side drought like condition in some parts. So it is not doing any good. Skewed distribution, highly unequitable distribution, which does at times more damage than the numbers which we we are interested in the monsoon, that it's a normal or above normal. More than that, I feel the rainfall, even if it is less, it is, what is important is it should be equally distributed. The rain should be when I need it. The quantum should be which I need it. If that is the one, even below normal monsoon also doesn't matter much. Okay, but then this is being written on the wall now. Unless we take adequate precautions, it is going to be a repeat thing again. It's not the last time. It is going to be a repeat action.
You know what, Air Vice Marshal Sharma, we're going to leave it there. It's a writing on the wall. We're better placed than many on the globe, but that does not mean that we're away from all the dangerous trouble that comes our way. There's more certainly that needs to be done in terms of awareness, in terms of how much human-induced error we're making every year, and we can only hope that good sense prevails, and sooner or later we come to those points where we're not asking the same questions around Diwali, when we're not asking the same questions about climate change only during extreme weather events, when it's a year-round process. Air Vice Marshal G.P. Sharma, many thanks for joining with us. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Nivedita, of course, your expert opinions are always helpful to us. And also, Nivedita, your documentary. Ladies and gentlemen, News9 Plus is an application. It's the world's first news OTT. You can download it from the Apple App Store or the iOS Google Android store. It's a documentary called The Big Burn that Nivedita has put out. It's about the heat waves across India. What more can you do? Some dietary tips also, some quirky information that you really like. How about we show the viewers a little snippet, and maybe then they'd want to download the application as well.
It's a snippet News9 of the Plus documentary, not mine.
She's just being modest here. Let's take a look at that documentary.
Human beings in the 21st century are demonstrating terrifying adaptability to unprecedented climate change. The soaring temperatures that come with climate change are becoming the new normal. The boiling frog analogy explains this phenomenon. A frog put in a pot of boiling water jumps out quickly. But if it's put in a pot of water and the heat is increased gradually, the frog will slowly cook to death. So, are you behaving like a frog in a simmering climate change pot? An intense heat wave that swept across large parts of India has broken records of past 122 years, putting a large chunk of people at the risk of heat-related health impacts. Recently, JAMA Psychiatry, a review journal published by the American Medical Association, conducted a study. The study cited that significant impacts of extreme heat can be associated with mental health issues alongside physical issues that a person can experience.
What the extreme heat conditions and heat wave do is, of course, the direct effect on the skin and the rest of the organs, but the indirect water electrolyte mediated effects are most crucial. Physical and mental health actually gets affected seriously by the depletion of water and the electrolytes. People with mental health problems need to be much more careful, but that's like everybody else. all marginalized, elderly, disabled, diseased populations need to be that much more careful in extreme weather conditions.
Now, coming to physical health, we realize that heat wave can actually lead to increased risk for cerebrovascular accidents. It can impact your lungs, it can impact your heart, especially people who have pre-existing comorbidities like they have a pulmonary disorder or those who have heart disease. They can really be impacted by the heat exhaustion that may lead to heat strokes.
It's not anything new that has happened this time. It has been happening for last 2 to 3 decades at least, since there has been a rising temperature. Every year the record is broken. And everywhere during these 4 months or 3 months when the heat waves are at their peak, there is at least 20% more admissions in the hospitals, primarily for mental health problems, because the behavioral problems also increase. Collating the data from other countries, whether it is Europe or Australia or any other country, they suggest that deaths, specifically the suicide in the person who are mentally ill, it's around 2 to 3 times during this period.
Rising temperature across India has affected wheat production of the country. Punjab is one of the leading wheat-producing states in the country. Farmers in this state have suffered huge crop losses due to the extreme heat.
इस साल बहुत कमी आई है गर्मी जी पै गई है ना गेतरी 15-20 दिन ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਫਸਲ ਯਕਦਮ ਪੱਕ ਗਈ ਉਹਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਝਾੜ ਘਟ ਗਏ ਇਹ 10-15 ਦਿਨ ਪਹਿਲੋਂ ਪੈ ਜਾਏ ਤੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਫਸਲ ਪੱਕ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਦਾਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਬਣਦਾ ਜੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਠੰਡਾ ਰਹੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਉਹ 8-10 ਦਿਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫਸਲ ਲੇਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਉਹ ਦਾਣਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਪਹਿਲੇ 20-22 ਤੇ ਲੱਗ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਤੀ ਸੀ 18-19-20-22 ਐਕੀ 15-16 ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜੇ 5 ਗੋੜੇ 10,000 ਦਾ ਘਾਟਾ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ
बहुत घट हुई है पहले पूरा होंदा है झाड़ ते हुण घट गया है पता नहीं हुण गर्मी दे नाल घट गया जा कोई
Earlier this year, the government estimated the country's wheat production to be a record 111.32 million metric tons for the year 2021-22. Last year, India produced 109.59 million metric tons of wheat. The projections were indicating a rise in the country's wheat output, but an early summer hit in March, and the temperatures were above normal for nearly a month. The heat shrank the crop and affected it badly, leading the Indian Food Ministry to slash its high projections by around 6 million metric tons. It now stands at 105 million metric tons.
Heat waves, because they came much earlier than normal, they have affected wheat production, and farmers are telling us the range is between 10 to 50%, and the quality of the grain has also gone down, so which has a direct impact on the price and which is going to go up.
India, being the second largest producer of wheat in the world, has decided to ban all exports after the heat wave affected the crop. The main purpose of taking this action is to control rising domestic prices.
Now the low-cost wheat will be with Government of India or within India. So first you will ensure the food security of India. That is very important, because when prices are low, there is a tendency to have a very high volumes of exports. So that's one way to control the food inflation and subsequently food insecurity. So I think it is a sensible move.
Currently, the world is about 1.2 degrees Celsius warmer than it was in the 19th century, which indicates that the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has risen by 50%. Experts claim that there is a 50-50 chance of the average global temperature rising to 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 5 years. And the chances of that happening are constantly increasing with time.
Today we are in a situation where each year the heat records are being broken. This year in India we've seen the same. And there are 3 reasons why we need to link it to the changing climate. Number 1, this heat wave has happened and each year it's starting earlier than the year before. Number 2, we know that today we have a situation in the Pacific called the El Nino. Now we know that El Nino should actually be cooling the planet, But because of climate change, we are seeing that the impacts are being reversed. You are seeing increasing heat levels. Thirdly, the weakening of the western disturbances. And all these are combined to make India's heat this year really the worst, and with very bad impacts on people, health, and of course, crops.
The global warming has a major impact over the extreme weather events, and heat wave is one of them. So, because heat wave is the condition of temperature, and global warming is measured by the temperature. So therefore, certainly there is an impact on terms of frequency, duration, intensity of the heat waves.
A study conducted by 29 researchers and climate scientists warns that with rising temperature of the globe, heat waves will be more common and hotter in coming times. As per the report, heat waves are likely to happen 30 times more in the Indian subcontinent. And if the situation is left unchecked, then we may soon witness worsening droughts, rising sea levels, and mass extinction of species.
Frequency of days with light rainfall or moderate rainfall is decreasing. But the frequency of days with heavy rainfall, say more than 15 centimeter, is increasing. So that can lead to the occurrence of the flash floods or urban floods or riverine floods sometimes.
See, what is the end? The end has to be related to the fact that either we reduce the emissions that are going into the atmosphere, greenhouse gas emissions, that so that the world is able to control the growth of temperature rise. We are not seeing that happen. So yes, each year will be worse. Now, whether the heat record will be broken, or the rain record will be broken, or the flood record will be broken, or the cyclonic activity record will be broken, I can't say. But we know that the combined impacts of climate change, these extreme weather events, are going to grow. Which means that what we need to do today is to talk about what can we do to improve at least ability to live with it, not cope, not adapt. But how do we take these into account to be able to live better, knowing that the impacts are going to get worse?
So I would say that the world is not ready to deal with the increasing impacts of climate change. India is particularly vulnerable because we are having 7,500 kilometer long coastline, and 50% of population still depends on agriculture. So which means we are highly vulnerable to climate change, and we cannot just keep talking about technology and finance. We also have to talk about how we are going to change our own policies to climate-proof our development and to be ready to deal with these disasters.
The fact that you are seeing these impacts now increase with such ferocity and intensity, we need now to sit back and say we cannot adapt to these. We must do better. We must understand what can we do to reduce the impacts of heat. What can we do to improve our water management, knowing that we will have extreme rainfall events. But we must not call it the new normal, because the new normal almost would make us feel that we can relax. This is now the new normal and we will learn to live with it. We cannot survive, because this is only the beginning of that change that we are seeing in the world. And things are only going to get worse year after year after year. So this is not the new normal. This is the new abnormal.
GPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human
has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Moon. Streaming now.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2. No end in sight. Streaming now.
There is gender disparity as far as the live donation in our country is concerned.
The number of donors, live donors, are, I would say, about 65% would be women. Men as recipients would be about 75 to 80%.
Taking a vital organ from a breadwinner is something which threatens the entire family.
I'll sacrifice myself and let he be strong. I'll take all the pain.
Lalu Prasad, the former Bihar Chief Minister, underwent a kidney transplant in December 2022. The donor was his daughter Rohini Acharya. Acharya's example underlines a universal fact about organ donation.
Women form majority of living organ donors.
A 2022 study by the Ahmedabad-based Institute of Kidney Diseases and Research Center and Dr. H.L. Trivedi Institute of Transplantation Sciences shows that women lead the way in kidney donors. These include 33% mothers and 20% wives. Mumbai resident Neena Mairale was diagnosed with stage 5 chronic kidney disease, CKD5, in June 2016. Without a kidney transplant, she could have become dependent